So basically what we're going to do is, if you could do this with me, that would be great. But let's just play those chords just to get familiar with what they are. So this is the chord progression for Majesty. You are very familiar with it. So let's just play our C chord. We're going to do it for 4 beats. And then our G chord. And then our E minor. And then our F. Okay, perfect. So now for improvising, I'm going to take you through a series of probably 6 to 8 different steps today. And the first thing we're going to do is let's keep our left hand the same. So left hand always plays our C, G, A, F, just like we normally do. But in the right hand, instead of playing a full chord, let's play just a single note from the chord. Okay, so for example, for C, we could do something like... Okay, so notice I'm playing around with the notes in the chord. Okay, so I could do something different, but that's what I chose to do here. Okay, now my G chord, I'm going to find some notes in the chord and play those. Oh, that sounds pretty good. What about my A minor? Let's find some notes in the A minor chord. And then the F. And then C. G. Interesting. So you can play notes from the chord, just experimenting with only notes in the chord. So right now I would like you to pause the video and try exactly what I did. Okay, I hope that went well for you. I would recommend doing that, experimenting with it for probably 5 minutes in a row, because there are so many different ideas you could do with that. For example, you could use different inversions, like maybe up here is really pretty, I think. And even different rhythms. Notice I'm adding some different rhythms on beat 4. It's really pretty. So I would pause the video again at this point and experiment with some different registers and different rhythms. Okay, now let's pick up and we're going to discuss, we're actually going to begin adding some non-chord tones to your playing. So at this point, you should be pretty comfortable with what we just talked about with playing just from notes from the chord. And now we're going to begin adding notes that aren't in the chord. So our rule for this, it's not really a rule, but it's a guideline that I give just to provide you some frame of reference to start with. What I like to say is let's start with our first note being a note from the chord. And then the other notes you can experiment with. So let's try it. So let's say we start with our C, and let's start with our C being a note in the chord. So I'm going to start here, and then after that, interesting. Notice my first note of every chord is something that's in the chord. Why don't you pause the video and experiment with non-chord tones, exactly what we did with notes that aren't in the chord. All right, now you can begin to see, I hope, how enjoyable this can be. It can be a little odd at first if you're not familiar with it, and a little bit maybe stressful, but just relax and enjoy the process. You know, in this process, there really aren't any wrong notes. There might be notes that sound a little better than others, but as long as you're playing a note that's in the key, which in this case is all the white keys, you're going to be fine. And so really just experiment. experiment with the process and with the ideas you can come up with. And I gave you some very simple ideas, but as you experiment with this, you'll be able to add some more complicated ideas. Like even in the left hand, you can add your 1-5-8 pattern. That's really pretty. And then even some other ideas in the right hand. Like I'll just show you something here. What if we did... I just made that up right now. I had not practiced that before. And so you can incorporate so many different ideas. You notice I incorporated the left hand, 1-5-8, maybe some other notes of the chord in the left hand. I did the right hand, I used notes that weren't in the chord, and I also used some different rhythmic ideas, like maybe a triplet on beat 4, or even some 16th notes on beat 4. There are so many different ideas that you can begin to play around with. And this is really your opportunity to start to find your own style. You know, your style will be different from mine. You can copy my ideas at first, but eventually you're going to start hearing your own ideas. And this is such a beautiful lesson because I can't really teach you how to improvise. I can give you some ideas and get you started in that way. But this is really a combination of everything we've learned so far. You know, a combination of all the keys that you've learned, all the inversions you've learned, and even the ear training that we talked about earlier in this course. Because as you're improvising, at this point, you'll be able to start hearing some things as well from those ear training courses where you will hear like, oh, the 5 would sound really good there. Or like a 5-6-5, like that melody would sound good. And so you'll start to hear some of those things and be able to play those as well. And this is also a point where you can really ask the Holy Spirit to give you sounds and give you ideas. I think it's really cool to ask for the sounds of heaven. Like, what songs are they singing in heaven? And so ask for that. Ask the Lord for the songs of heaven. You know, it says in the Bible that they're singing the song of Moses in Revelation, which is very interesting to me because we know in Exodus that after they crossed the Red Sea that Moses wrote a song. And I don't know if that is the Song of Moses. I think it probably is. That's what most scholars believe. But there is some uncertainty about it. But if it is the Song of Moses, and if that's the one that they're singing in heaven, then it makes me wonder, did heaven like Moses' song so much that they decided to sing it in heaven? Or did Moses enter that place in heaven and hear the song, one of the songs that they're singing, and he brought it here? I don't know. It's interesting to me that there are songs that they're singing, and we can enter into that through the Holy Spirit as he chooses to reveal that to us. And so I would pray and ask the Lord, like, would you give me the sounds that you want me to play? Would you teach me? Would you put melodies in my head? You know, so many great songs come that way. And I've written songs that have come that way too, where I just wake up one day and there's a melody in my head. And then I hear words to it, and the songs come that way, from that place of worship and from that place of just being in the presence of the Lord. And so improvising, yes, we're experimenting with all the pianistic elements that we've talked about, but it's more than that. This is really a beautiful way to rely on the Holy Spirit and say, Holy Spirit, would you give me sounds? And then just wait and see what he gives you. Maybe he'll give you a melody, a tune. Maybe he'll give you a chord progression or just a little words or a little idea to play. So try that. It's just a beautiful way to commune with him and partner with him. Okay, we talked about expanding with different rhythms in the right hand, trying accompaniment patterns in the left hand. Another option that you could do, and these are just ideas to get you inspired, an option is to use that 1-5-8 pattern in the left hand and then continue it in the right hand. So maybe do like so I'm just playing notes from the chord here. See, I'm just outlining my C chord with my 1-5-8 in the left hand and then just an inversion of C in the right hand. So, but I could do this kind of as an arpeggio. So I start with the left hand and then right hand, maybe a G, A minor, F. So I'm playing them as eighth notes, 1 and 2 and 3 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 1 and 2 and 3 and, okay? I'm actually going to change that into 4/4 time. So let's see what we can do there. 1 and 2 and 3, 4, 1 and 2 and 3, 4, 1 and 2 and 3, 4 and 3, 4, 1 and 2 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 and 3 and 2 and 3, 4 and 2 and 2 and 3, 4, 1 and 2 and 3. There's so many different things you can do, but that's one idea, to use kind of that river, flowing river sound from that 1-5-8 pattern and extend that into the right hand as well. So let's talk a little bit about how does this apply beyond just being able to improvise and kind of create melodies on your own, which is absolutely beautiful. How can we actually use this in some of our worship songs? I think the most obvious place to use it is in introductions and interludes. We don't need to just play chords. Obviously, chords are the foundation of everything we do. Chords are the building blocks. But we can improvise like this and include some of these ideas in our playing. So I wanted to show this to you in a few songs. And I'm actually going to go back to Here I Am to Worship from our beginning course. And I need to find it here. Oh, wait, I have it. Okay, so in the key of C, we had Here I Am to Worship. And this is just a nice, simple chorus. I like experimenting with some things with this one. So let's say we're just playing this as an introduction or just as an interlude in the song. Could we be more creative than just playing the chords, which is totally fine. But is there something else we could do? Maybe. What if we did like... Notice I'm hinting at the melody just a little bit. I wasn't hinting very much, but I can hint at it a little bit more. See how I'm kind of playing with that melody and adding some other things in addition to it. If we wanted to do something where we didn't incorporate the melody, we could do a very similar pattern to what we just did in our little exercises here. Okay, that gives you some ideas of things that you can use in introductions and in interludes. Now you want to make sure it doesn't sound like out of character from the rest of the song. But again, these are ideas. Experiment with them, try them, and see what you could do in your songs. So let's try it in something else. Perhaps What a Beautiful Name chorus. So let me go to that one. That was in our key of D. What a beautiful name it is. So something very simple like that. You can do that really well in interludes. For example, if this chorus is played again without singing, if you just play it as an interlude, kind of hinting at the melody like that really works well. And so again, this is where your ear training and your improvising come together. Okay, and you can also do this in spontaneous moments. A good little exercise here to practice improvising is to take something very, very simple, like let's do a C to C suspended. Can we just do a C to C suspended chord? And how could we play that? How could we make it more interesting? Could we play the notes in a different order? Could we add some notes? Okay. Very different from our normal just chording the C to C suspended. Okay, so that's an exercise that you could try as well. I hope you enjoyed this video. The clip that you just watched is from my course called Early Advanced Worship Piano. If you would like to learn more about how to play worship piano from a heart of worship and love for Jesus, check out my online lessons and courses at adorationmusicacademy.com.